So we have so much to tell you about Peter that we have a lovely man who's going to come out. Harvey I met in West Side Story, and he was the first replacement in the Jet Gang, and went on then to play so many roles. I saw him play the young Buddy in Follies. I saw him do Zaza in La Cage aux Folles, and Barnum, and so many roles that every time I would come to town, he was doing another that I didn't recognize him in. Here is Harvey Evans, the very talented, brilliant actor, dancer, singer, performer. We love you. Yes, we do. And now we leave, and Harvey takes over.
Now, I just want to say, during West Side Story, you did more, you seemed like you did an Ed Sullivan show every 2 weeks. You were the queen of Ed Sullivan.
Well.
And on top of which, we were in acting class together, Wynn Handman, and I was assigned A View from the Bridge. While I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I had to learn an Italian accent. You taught me the Italian accent, and then you went on to do the movie of A View from the Bridge.
See how influential you are in my life? Thank you, Harvey. I couldn't have done it without him, I tell you. I love you. Come on, take over. Baby.
All right, St. Gennaro Festival, that's what we're having here. Little Italy has theirs, we have ours. And let's get this right away. He had the best buns in show business. Martin Charnin always said, if I ever switch and go the other way, it would be for Peter Gennaro. Peter Gennaro, my association with Peter goes back to watching him on television on the Ed Sullivan Show, especially a number from Seventh Heaven, which we'll ask Cheetah about a little later. Whoa, everybody okay? And so I saw him on television, and he brought dance to America through his television shows. My only dream was to come to New York after I graduated from high school and dance study from Peter Gennaro. And so as soon as I got to New York, I raced to the dancing studio, and there was a sign that said, Mr. Gennaro will not be teaching today. Julie Newmar will take his place. And she is here! Julie, take a bow! You're welcome.
I did teach his class.
Well,
It was right across from Carnegie Hall. Right?
That's it, on 56th Street.
Were you good?
You made me better. Well, I wasn't disappointed because I had a crush on Julie Newmar from Seven Brides for Seven. All right, Peter Gennaro. Also during the course of the evening, you will hear the name Liza. Well, that's Liza Gennaro, not that other Liza. As a matter of fact, this is funny. I heard that at the Equality Parade, or the Equality March last week in Washington, there was a sign that said, the other Liza. Liza married 2 gay men. Why can't I marry one? All right, Peter Gennaro was born in 1919 in, of all places, New Orleans, Louisiana. Well, that's just fate, because what better way to observe music than that place? I mean, with the gospel and the funeral parades and the blues and the jazz and multiracial, multicultural. It's just, he should have been born there. And I'm sure he started dancing as soon as he was born with all that music. And his mom, he was born to Sicilian parents, Gaetano and Concetta Gennaro, and they owned a local bar. After high school, Peter worked in the bar. But his mom used to send him out at 4 years old to dance in all the amateur shows, and he would win, usually plates, a set of plates. So I'm sure that family had more plates than they could ever dream of. But he did do gigs. He had a gig at the Peter Herman's on Bourbon Street when he was still in school. So he was dancing early on. In 1938, he joined the Army, and as fate would have it, he was supposed to go to China, but his papers were lost, and he wound up in India just when Melvyn Douglas was coming through to hire people to perform for the soldiers. So Peter he danced his way through the Army. After the Army, on a GI Bill, he came to New York and he studied with Katherine Dunham. Well, there again, he was one of the only white people in a black company, so he is the blackest white dancer there ever is. Then he studied from Jose Limon, Pearl Primus, and many other wonderful teachers, and he went He joined the San Carlo Opera Company in Chicago, and there he met Jean Kinsella, who became his wife. And after the army, they also did Petrushka together. She was the ballerina, and he was Petrushka. After the army, he came to New York. His first Broadway show was, of course, Guys and Dolls. He went on to do the incredible Steam Heat in Pajama Game. From Steam Heat, he went into Bells Are Ringing after Steam Heat with a featured part. And Jerry Robbins was very impressed with him, and so asked him to co-choreograph West Side Story. And during a preview, George Abbott was walking up the aisle afterwards, and so was Jerry and Peter. And George Abbott said, "Jerry, what a wonderful job you've done on this show, especially the America number." So Jerry was good and said, "Peter Gennaro did that number, and I'd like you to meet him." And then from there, he was offered Fiorello. He went on to choreograph Carmelita, Molly Brown, Irene, the Threepenny Opera, Radio City for four years, and of course, Annie. So I'd like now to introduce a panel. Where's okay. If this lady looks familiar to you, it's because she's been on every panel we've had. And it's because she's worked for everyone. You did Guys and Dolls with Peter, and you played Miss Adelaide.
Right.
She is truly a golden girl from the golden age of Broadway. I will with it. Nicole Barth. Bill Guske. Juliet Siegnirous. And Tony Stevens. All right, Iva, tell us a little about what you remember of Peter and Guys and Dolls.
Well, the way I finally got into Guys and Dolls was Ernie Martin had seen me do Carousel in London at Drury Lane. And he said, "When you come back to New York, please call us and come in and audition. We're doing a new show." So I came back to New York. I called him and said, "Oh, but we've cast our soprano," which was that lovely Isabel Bigley. So I said, "Thank you very much." And I went to see the show. I fell in love with Miss Adelaide. I said, that's the part I want to play. I don't want to be a soprano anymore. I want to be Miss Adelaide. So I would go every night, sneak in and sit on the stairs and watch Vivian Blaine, who was incomparable in that particular role, singing Adelaide's Lament. So I finally got the disc, the music, and I learned the song along with the disc. So one day I called the office and I said, "I'd like to come in and audition if you're having any replacement auditions." And they said, "Oh, well, we're not." I said, "But," he said, "we don't need sopranos." I said, "I want to audition for Miss Adelaide." "What?" I said, "Please, would you hear me do Miss Adelaide's Lament?" So they said, "Oh, all right, speak to Ira Bernstein," who was the company manager. And I called Ira and I said, "I have a special request. I've worked very hard on this. It's a big change from a soprano to be a belter. And I would like to have your pianist from the pit play for me." So they said, "Oh, that's impossible." I said, "Please, bear me out. There's only one musician in New York who will play Adelaide's Lament exactly as it should be, and that is that man in the piano in the pit." Okay, so I said, "Can I meet him a half hour before I sing the audition?" They said, "All right." So I went in the pit, and I met this gentleman. His name was Billy Kyle. And he said, "What key are you doing the Lament?" I said, "The one from the record." They said, "Oh, that's a tone lower than Miss Blaine." "Well, I can't do it a tone higher because then I'll be a soprano." So he said, "Okay." So we did it in the pit. He looked at me and he said, "You out-Blaine Vivian."